My name's Elias. I'm with Multiversity, and I'm here with the most of the creative team of She Could Fly, Martin Morazzo and Christopher Cantwell. So let's get this started. So I guess one question is kind of to start, how did you two come together to produce the first 4-issue miniseries? Did Karen Berger approach you? Did you approach her?
I pitched Karen Berger the idea, and she really liked it, and so I started to work on the writing, and she immediately set about looking for an artist. Obviously, I had no idea of who to go to first, and Karen has a really, healthy Rolodex of folks, and she found Martin and brought him the idea, and you dug it, and so we were kind of off and running. Yeah?
That's right, yeah. It was immediately.
First sentence, you were like, this one.
Yes.
What did you think when you first got the script?
Oh, I thought it was amazing. I didn't even get the script at first. I have a document he wrote explaining the story, and it was so well written that I was like, I wanted to know more about the story. So I was hooked from the beginning, from the start. Yeah.
And then Martin started putting character, comps together, and I just thought it was perfect in terms of what we wanted to do, and the art just elevated it to such an extent that I was extremely happy to be working with it.
And so now you're back with a second, season of She Could Fly, The Lost Pilot. Was that always kind of the plan, to have multiple miniseries kind of as seasons, or is there something else you would have preferred, or is this just kind of how the mode you're in from like ¡Halt and Catch Fire?
And then someone said, please make more. I think that I would love to tell the story as long as we could. I think it does seem to have like kind of a finite end to it at some point. I don't know if you could do like Luna in her mid-50s, like that would be weird. But maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But I think I always wanted to take another bite of the apple in terms of what happened to her next. And what I like about the second arc is that it's more open-ended in terms of what she's going through. I think it gets a little bit more messy in terms of the mental illness component of her story. It goes a little darker, which I think was, interesting for me at least, just to push it darker a little bit. But also keep it emotional. So, I was happy to do another 5. It was great. And that was Karen and Mike Richardson and Dark Horse saying, okay, let's do some more, which is always a good email to receive. Yeah.
No. Well, then a question more directed at you. When approaching this second series, did you... how did you approach it artistically versus the first series? Because the first series you were creating a lot of character designs and setting the world, but on this one you've kind of settled more in. So how have you kind of approached it?
Well, we basically aged the characters, and we had to know what the characters been through in those. There's like 2 years in between each one.
It's like more than a year. Yeah.
So we aged Luna a little bit, and there were some characters that really changed in the middle, like Bill, for example. So we redesigned the whole crew. But it was. I felt it like a continuation of the story. So I didn't change drastically anything from one series to the other.
One thing I don't think we've talked about that I really liked that you did was because the first story takes place in the summer. It's like August, September. Yes. And then the second arc takes place in the winter, and I really feel that change in your art. And then also what Miroslav did with the color. Yes. Yeah.
Miroslav work there was very important too, in terms of the colors he used. Yeah.
The color palette I think is very different for both. Like it's unified, but I think you can feel the seasonal change, and I think it helps with the emotional change too.
So I had a question about Miroslav's coloring, but you kind of semi-answered it. Was Miroslav and I think Todd Klein is the letterer? No. Some rabbits. Did Dark Horse bring them on, or did you say, I want them on the project?
So Karen's work, I think,
Karen was the organizing principal there and was bringing on all of us and assembling the team. Yeah, which is what she does best, and kind of guides the process, and that's what's so special about Burger Books as an imprint, is that she's the one that is kind of going person to person, and she has so many personal relationships because of her storied history in the industry that it's great to have all those people come on, be excited to work with Karen, and then all of us kind of feel like a really nicely tight-knit team on a project. It's great.
So the characters kind of in She Could Fly are very messy and very human. When you're kind of writing them, do you find it difficult to kind of get in those headspaces and be with them, and then also because each person's like Bill and Luna, and they all have their own challenges, their own approaches to life and the way they're handling their own either mental illnesses or just physical circumstances. Do you find it difficult to live in that headspace while you're writing these scripts, or is it just kind of par for the course for writing human characters?
No, I don't find it difficult to go into those headspaces because I feel very connected to those characters. I mean, I feel very connected to hopefully every character that I'm writing, but those characters especially feel very close to me. This was a very personal story that I took to Karen. I'd never worked in comic books before, and so I feel very, very connected to Luna. So to switch over to that feels very natural. And then the other characters are almost extensions of her in a certain way, just thematically. So, some of that stuff, it gets darker and, draws from personal experience, but and sometimes I think it's harder to live through Martine's art, I would say. Like, I think it's easier to put into a document and write it out and kind of process it that way. But then when it comes back from an artist who has kind of like brought fresh eyes to that scene or that panel or that moment and see it in that kind of stark way presented in this very emotional tableau, I think that's actually when it hits me more, when I'm like, oh shit, like that we made that. That's rough. I think it's it's good, but I think that's what's so beautiful about it too. Yeah.
So do you have plans for? I mean, you said you could keep going indefinitely, but do you have plans for more of She Could Fly?
Plans. Maybe some blueprints on a hard drive. And I'm working on the pilot right now for AMC, for the show. AMC picked it up to develop, and so I just started writing the pilot script. So it's really fleshing out the story and, maybe going back and changing some things around, how things happen, but definitely 100% in the spirit of what Martine and I have created. Yeah.
What's your most fun style to draw? Like what types of scenes do you maybe not enjoy, but when you finish them, like you're like, I created that. That's proud. You're most proud of.
The emotional moments, I guess, when Luna collapses, for example, and poor Luna. But it's when if I see the drawing and I kind of, when I'm drawing something that's really sad, I kind of get sad. It's like I feel what I'm drawing. It's somehow, and so when I do something that it's emotionally too stressing, I kind of feel if I nailed it, I kind of feel like it feels well. Like I did it well. I don't know, did it right.
Yeah, the panel I think of her kind of stunned with tears in her eyes, where her eyes are very big and she seems very childlike. That is my favorite panel of her. It feels like exactly the emotion it should be. Yeah.
How's the reaction been to the books? Like, from the creator's perspective, seeing all the people connecting to it and connecting to Luna's story, would you be able to talk on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first arc was very, very well received overall. The reaction to the second arc has been mixed, and it's tough as a creator. I think it's a more difficult chapter. I do think it gets a little messier emotionally. I think there is a lot of plot that sometimes I'm like, oh, did I cram in too much plot? I think if we were to move forward, I would really just try to tell a very personal story about her, like a very quiet chapter of the book. I think would be nice if we got to do more. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough when you see people seem to like identify with what you're trying to do, and then heavily fall off when you go further into that story. And they're like, it's starting to get repetitive, and I'm like, repetitive? Fuck you, you know. Like I say that to myself, not publicly. Although I guess I just did. So yeah, so it's a fickle audience, just like everything else. But you gotta go down playing your music, and I wouldn't change the story. You know, I think I'm proud of what we've done. I think it might be a harder read for some people, or not as classically satisfying as something that's more straightforward. But it's what we wanted to do. So fuck off.
Proud of it. So
yeah, exactly.